Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We will get started. Just to let everybody know today that we are going to be recording the session. So if you don't want your video to be captured, you can turn it off. It does help with the audio if when you're not speaking, your microphone is muted. It just helps us to keep a good quality of audio here. Please feel free to use the chat. I've got my colleague Stuart Sims with me today, who's going to be monitoring the chat and any questions. So we're here today to talk about live streaming face-to-face sessions, which is a topic that has been of much interest to many courses I know, as we've kind of negotiated the transition to teaching with less face-to-face contact. So I'm going to start off the session just by setting a bit of context around what we mean by this kind of hybrid teaching, and also introduce you to the HyFlex model for those of you who may not be familiar with it. Oh, if we can just make sure that everyone has their microphones muted, that would be helpful. Okay, so I'm going to talk you a little bit now through the model of HyFlex teaching, and it's nothing that is particularly new or groundbreaking, but what has happened over the last 6 months is that it has become much more prominent, and people have found themselves teaching in this situation. So what is it? So the hybrid flexible or HyFlex course format it's describing an instructional approach. So it's basically rethinking what happens in the physical teaching space. So it's a mode which combines face-to-face teaching with online learning, in that you will have two groups of students as a lecturer that you're catering for. So in the first instance, you would have the students who are in the physical space with you, and then you would also have a group of students who are in the online space. They're joining the session, they're able to watch the session, and they're able to contribute as well. So for each, in the kind of the HyFlex delivery model, this is giving student choice, basically. So if we think about it in a kind of a standard course format, so if we weren't necessarily working in the conditions that we are because of the pandemic, the students would have the choice about how they would access the session, which is certainly a kind of a step forward. So how does it work? As I've said, it enables participants to choose how they join and how they access learning resources. There's basically always equivalents available. And it does really need effective teaching strategies and technology to make sure that everybody is included and everybody can actually do that as well. It is common to have a technician in the room while this is happening, so that you've got somebody who can monitor the online learning experience and ensure that those students again have an equitable experience. So who is doing it? This is something that we're really interested in. So I would just like to ask, could you raise a virtual hand? So if you go to your settings, you'll have an option at the bottom menu, which is just to put your virtual hand up. Would you be able to do that for me if you have taught a session face-to-face that has also been streamed to students in the online space? Has anybody had experience of that? Evos, yeah. I'll give you a moment to find your hands to raise. If you hover over the menu, you'll be able to do that. Okay, so not too many of you. We'll have time for a discussion and for sharing of experiences. Rebecca's done it as well. Sorry, they're just coming through now. I was a bit too eager there. So Tony as well. Lovely. It'd be wonderful to hear your experiences of that. So it turns out that we are actually doing this, which is something that we knew. I know there's been various different approaches to it. and it has been in some cases as a response to student demand, so where students have wanted to feel part of the physical space if they're isolating, for example. Let's just let Richard in. Okay, so I will just stop sharing my screen. Fantastic. So I'm interested in those of you that have done this. Would somebody be a willing volunteer to share their experiences of how this was achieved? Was it a positive experience? You can either raise your hand if you've got your video up, or you can do it virtually. Rebecca, hello.
Hello. I thought I'd dive straight in.
Yeah.
Break the silence. In the School of Architecture and Interior Design, we've been doing this every 2 weeks. So we have a cycle where our studio days, we've divided most of the years in half. So they have a face-to-face session 1 week and then an online session the next week. So all of those face-to-face sessions are taught in this way. So they're day-long sessions as well, so it's been quite exciting to learn. I know Justin's camera isn't on, but I can see him nodding in my mind.
Yeah.
So kind of getting the technology to work has been hurdle number one. Getting that sense of involvement is hurdle number two, and also there's a large period of time where you're not sitting next to your camera. So whereas on an online session, we feel like we're kind of connected, but as soon as you kind of move away to go and talk to another student, that's a problem. We've also had problems where you move, if you're trying to kind of have a studio discussion, they can't hear the rest of the studio because we're not kind of wired for sound in the rest of the studio. So we've ordered in some radio mics. We haven't got those yet, but that should be exciting. Vivos is nodding, yes. And then, but I've been wandering around with my phone, kind of interviewing people at arm's length. So that's been quite surreal as well.
Fantastic. Well, kudos to you for attempting it. It's a very brave thing, a very brave thing to do. Have your students received that positively? Have you had some good feedback?
It's increasing. To be honest, I think they just get a little bit annoyed at the technology. Where's the link? Why doesn't the link don't work? Or that kind of biz. So if we get over that hurdle, it's all gravy after that. So yeah, keeping a sense of humour is definitely important. I personally find it important to time my day down to minutes, have a lesson plan that is rigorous and military in its operation. So all my prep is done, so I can kind of seamlessly click on something and link to that Padlet or whatever. And then everybody's kind of sharing the same thing. Previously to this, we used to kind of sit around pieces of paper and draw on them. That's the kind of whole basis for architectural education. Now we can't do that. We can't sit near them. We can't give them a piece of paper, and we certainly don't want to breathe the air that they're breathing. So online tools like Miro and Padlet and stuff like that has really helped, but it has underlined that problem we were talking with the student union about, that digital poverty aspect to it, and I think it's creating a divide.
Absolutely, and as you've highlighted, the prep time is so much more, isn't it? Fevos, did you want to come in on that?
Yeah, I just want to say that for us it was a bit interesting because we started doing it in the beginning, and we were supposed to have like 20 students, and in the beginning there were supposed to be 5 of them online, and the other 13 in the studio, 15 something in the studio. And what we realized is, like, I think in the end, I think it was rather successful. So more and more people decided to stay home. I think the biggest challenge of this hybrid approach is the fact that we don't know how many are going to be online and how many they're going to be in the room. And that becomes a bit challenging. And when we have like these small groups that Rebecca is describing, it's, you can find some way to navigate through that. I do the same thing, and I am on my own with 50 students, some online, some offline, and that was because of a timetabling problem, because they were supposed to be in 2 groups, but somebody just put them all in 1 group. And I think that the problem you have is like, when you have to do group work, and suddenly you either have to split the online people only together, and if you try to create a more hybrid thing, it needs an extra level of preparation, because we realized that breakout rooms could not work on that case. So what I had to do is like to create extra Zoom meetings on Moodle so that the students would join these things, and at the same time, this creates a very noisy environment in the studios, because the place where we are teaching in architecture is like a huge open space. That would mean that you can have like 3 different groups. So if you have like people on speakers, it can create a rather interesting, although that created opportunities. For example, we had a joint session with a studio in architecture from Leeds Beckett University. So we could kind of like bring people together. So it creates like opportunities. But to the truth, if I didn't have like this kind of like Bluetooth microphone that I actually just walk around like taking interviews, I don't think that these things could have worked. So there were many things that we had to resolve on our own. And as I said, put in the chat, originally, we were kind of like discouraged from trying to do that. But we feel that this is the best way of working, because it takes a bit of preparation, but at least the students that they are online, they don't just get a summary of what is happening. They actually feel that they are in the room. And I think this is important.
Absolutely. And we did put guidance out when we transitioned into the blended and connected model, which was very much not to attempt this, because, as you say, of the amount of technical skill that's needed, the needing somebody to manage the online space, and it's fantastic that you guys have found your own solutions to that, and, as you say, been able to provide the most essential part of it, which is a good quality audio stream. So that's
and you can run it on your own, just to let you know, because I've been on my own. I didn't have like a second person when I'm running it with the 50 students. It's manageable. It's just like at the end of the session, you feel like you finished a marathon, but still it's doable, but it takes like a really preparation, so you kind of know what they're doing at every step, and you don't feel a bit. And sometimes it looks like being on TV, because you kind of like, so what are the people on Zoom saying? People from home. So it's kind of like,
yeah, and as you say, as a delivery model, it really does open up the world to your students, because you can bring other universities, you can bring experts in, and nobody will miss out on that, because they're able to see it in the physical and the online space. Part of what I wanted to raise today was that the whole shift in digital learning that we've seen, and this huge revolution in the last 6 months, has been explored and captured. And what I'd like to just share with you now is a report from JISC that you may or may not have seen. So there's a report called Learning and Teaching Reimagined, A New Dawn for Higher Education. And it really is a forward-looking report which has gathered views across the sector and also kind of looks towards the future. So if we think about why this high flex teaching, or this change in delivery model, might be significant, what might that mean for the future of our learning environments? What might it mean for campus life? And now we have introduced in some cases this flexible delivery. What might that mean in terms of our students' expectations? And is there any going back to how things were before? So in terms of the JISC report, there's a section there which is looking forward to 2030. And I'd just like to give you a moment to read that initial quote there. So what JISCA are doing there, and Maguire, who was the central author for the report, they're looking to the future of higher education and UK higher education, and saying that we have in the skill set that we've developed moved beyond and grown our student communities, and we have expanded beyond these physical spaces in the campus into the virtual world, and that is really transformative in terms of how we might take the delivery of our courses and the use of our campus forward over the next 10 or so years. So one of the reasons that as an institution we really discourage this approach is because it is extremely difficult to do well without a lot of prep, and my hat really does go off to you, to Rebecca and Fevos and Architecture, if you have found a way to do this successfully. I think we can learn a lot from you. So it's about the technology and the curriculum aligning. It's about equivalence, and that's a really important point to remember. It's not the teaching is happening in the physical space and there is a nice movie being streamed to the students. It is an equivalent experience, equivalent access to activities, to group discussion. And one of my key recommendations for anybody who is wanting to do this and is having sort of demand from their students is to request for somebody to facilitate with you, whether it is a PhD student or a technician, or somebody else from your course. And obviously that has workload implications, but I feel like you do always need somebody with you in the room to support you with that. Okay, so I'd like us to move into some breakout rooms now and to have a discussion about this. So my question here is, what are the implications for teaching and learning at Portsmouth if we are moving into this high flex delivery or this hybrid teaching role? So I would like you to, in small groups, which I'll put you into now, just to discuss this for 10 minutes, share experiences around your own teaching, and do a bit of stargazing in terms of the future of your course. So let's have a look. So we've got 20 participants. I'm going to put you into 4 rooms, and I will see you all in about 10 minutes time. So what does high flex teaching mean for the future of education? And I will see you shortly.
Amy, did you want the breakout rooms recorded, or are we happy just to?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
Has that worked? Yeah.
I've opted out, but you can join a breakout room if you need to.
No, that's fine. I think we can
Didn't realise it was an option to reject being in a breakout room. I just said later. So...
Is it? Oh no, I didn't know. Maybe that's something I've not done in settings.
Yeah, telling me I've been assigned to a room, but I don't have to go to it. Yeah, like you say, you might be able to force people.
Yeah, it just says Stuart Sims not joined.
It's being difficult.
Stuart says no.
Did you want to make me a co-host in case the?
Yeah, sorry, I did see the.
Catherine's having a shocker. It sounds like
a nightmare. I really hate when you've got something full screen and you share it and then Zoom just disappears.
No,
You're talking into the void.
No, I don't know if it works with 2 screens. Obviously, I'm just sort of working on a laptop. I don't know if you have 2 monitors, whether you can sort of drag across or not.
I haven't managed to get into Mercantile yet. Do you need to though?
Yeah, I think I was naive at the beginning because Tom and Andy both volunteered to drop stuff off for me, which was nice. But I was like, no, I'm sure I'll manage. And now it's been 9 months. I'm like, oh, actually a nicer chair and another screen would be quite good.
Same. Yeah, it's quite like my mouse. Oh, dear. The dog's decided to go mental today. Of course she has. of all
It's
the
fine.
day.
It doesn't come through that loudly. We can always hear what you're saying, and I quite like it. I'm a firm believer in how these things should be quite human feeling, which I think the students were saying a bit in the last session as well. I think.
Yeah. What happened with Rama at the end there? Was she right? No.
No, she seemed a bit of a.
Mike said he had a bit of a tear for Rama at the end.
No, I don't know.
No.
She seemed somewhat out of sorts generally. I thought. I don't know what's.
She's been. She was isolating prior to lockdown, so she's had a. I think she might have even had a positive test.
Oh really?
So yeah, I think she's kind of dealing with that. Can I so it says broadcast message to all, so I can just okay, so I could ask them to nominate somebody to talk on their behalf, couldn't I? Got loads of different names again, which is not the same people as the last one.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was a little pessimistic about the turnout, and I think this is good numbers. And like you say, that other than 3 or 4 people, they're people who don't necessarily, certainly don't remember from last time. From what I can see, a few more people who are sort of like OCDs and things like that. Whereas I think last time we got more lecturers. It feels like a bit of a mix this time, but also some people I just don't know, and that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. I had such a panic that Roma wasn't going to be there. I was thinking, oh my God, did I tell her 10 o'clock or something?
Yeah. No, I think it's a lot more last minute than last time as well. So I think, Sarah and Andy have been very on top of that sort of stuff. But because I've recruited 2 people to present later, and I got an out of office for emailing one of them. So I'm slightly concerned about that. But we'll see. At least that's a parallel. It's worse if it happens in your first session where it's a bit all or nothing, isn't it?
I always find that when I'm in breakout rooms in Zoom, the conversation kind of gets going at about 10 minutes and then nobody wants to be pulled out.
Yeah, it's I had a really interesting chat with I think I told you I was running a training session for some accounting students who were doing peer mentoring last week, and we had an interesting discussion about how to get breakout rooms working more. And like, as you can imagine, peer mentors, they were saying they're the keen ones. They essentially, but they often go into a breakout room and they're the only one with a camera on, and it's tricky.
I've got somebody waiting, so if I admit him, and then what do I have to do?
I think you can still allocate to a breakout room at this stage.
Oh no, he's gone.
Oh, okay. I don't see it because I've been allocated to a room, but on your menu, I think that people will. Oh no, I might be confusing it with Webex, which incidentally has got a lot better. I was using Webex for one of the APA onboarding things last week, and they seem to have just copied a lot of what Zoom is doing, which is in some ways annoying because we had to get such a fight to get Zoom.
I know. Zoom had it first. Loads of sirens. Can you hear that? It's going mad. Can't hear it? No.
No, hopefully nothing too.
Sometimes I think they just drive around Portsmouth with the sirens on to make a point that there are still police.
Yes.
Really Well, on their way home, they just get told to put the sirens on.
Yeah, yeah. I used to live in the centre of Cardiff. It felt like that, actually. There's never anything going on. Don't get that in Winchester. We get you hear people with plummy accents wishing each other good morning and their dogs barking, and that's about it. Going past our house. How are you doing in the new lockdown? Is it feeling
I hate it.
Worse? Yeah.
Although it doesn't feel that much different, it's very busy out still.
Yeah, no, we tend to avoid town and have done for months anyway, but we sort of skirted around the edges of it on Saturday, and you wouldn't have known there was a lockdown. It was, even though we weren't going in, you could see how busy it was. It's still quiet out where we are, so it just feels the same, really.
Mm-hmm. Sent a message saying, can they nominate somebody to talk?
Mm-hmm.
The more I read about this high flex or hybrid, I just think it's going to completely change the whole sector.
Yeah, but I'd be interested to see what people say now, but I think it's the kind of thing that will somewhat require a bit of investment in the physical space, and I worry that not necessarily Portsmouth, but generally that decisions are being made in quite a sort of simplistic way, that we just need more software or whatever it is, whereas actually we need more like teal suites to do this kind of thing really effectively. I think I've said to you before that I'm quite a believer in all this kind of stuff. I think it actually, if done well, this is a way better way of learning. But what you're talking about offers a little bit more of that feeling interactivity, because I think in terms of, pedagogically, I think this is better than just doing a lecture for an hour, like as we're doing currently. But you do miss out on the more social things. But I hope that this much vaunted vaccine works, that like we return to a model that is more like what you're suggesting, but you keep the social elements as well. And I think you'll just get better teaching across the board.
Yeah. I mean, I think the way they're using it in the States, and I think University of Arts London are doing it. They're basically saying to students, if you register for a course and you can choose throughout the course how you go ahead. Hi there, Heather. We're just in breakout rooms at the moment, and I'm bringing people back in a couple of minutes. So if we want to hold on in the main room here, and then the people will come back from their breakout rooms.
Apologies for coming in late, but I'm sort of in between meetings all day, and I just want to sort of catch as much as I can, really. We're a partner organisation.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Work.
Institute for Optimum Nutrition.
Oh, yes.
We have a degree and a graduate diploma with Portsmouth. So this is our staff development as well.
Oh, fantastic. And you will be able to access all of the recording.
Which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're very happy, and that's why I've made it quite easy in terms of dipping in and out of the rooms for people to come to as much as they can throughout the day, or have it on in the background. That's absolutely fine.
No, it's absolutely fantastic for my staff, absolutely. And because we're a small organisation, we couldn't ever hope to host something like this. We have our own academic team meetings in which we look at aspects like this and share our experience and development, but nowhere near this. So this is fabulous. Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
So Imi, what's your title again? Sorry.
So I'm head of academic development, which is a central team that does the learning and teaching, innovation, training, support for lecturers. So I have worked with Neil Weston before, who I know you would have been linked up with.
Yeah.
And Stuart's in my team.
Hi, Stuart. Well, when I was at Westminster, my life before ION, I was head of learning and teaching for the School of Biosciences. So, this is very much my background. I don't do very much teaching anymore. I'm the dean at ION. Yeah.
We'll have to have you in to deliver something for us.
Well, you've got one of our staff delivering today, haven't you? You've got Sean.
Yes, we have. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, we're always up for contributing.
Yeah,
very much so.
Wonderful.
What I need to get my head around, and still haven't got my head around while people are in your breakout rooms, is the cap on how many of our staff we can put through the Apex program, and the costings for the apprenticeship education Cert HE. So that's
I mean, happy to have a chat with you about that. We're modelling something at the moment, and the
brilliant, Amy.
BG Cert goes distance learning from January, or being
Which would be perfect for our staff.
That's what you need.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. Although I do love the Portsmouth Library, I have to say, I think you've got an amazing resource there.
It's a nice space, isn't it?
Yeah, and our subject librarians, they're just amazing as well. They're so supportive. Oh.
Fantastic. Right, I'm going to bring everybody back. See you shortly.
Okie doke.
Oh, it gives us a minute. There we go.
Yeah, the clock counting down. Yeah. I'm going to have to. I will have to leave you soon to go into another meeting. So
hey, that's absolutely fine. You're welcome just to listen in to some of the comments. See how we go. So normally everyone's frantically trying to say their last point.
Right.
Just waiting for the last people to come out of the breakout rooms. I keep wanting to say break-up rooms, but that's very negative. Fantastic. See everybody trickling back now. I hope that you enjoyed your discussions. I did send a broadcast message for you to nominate somebody from your group to feedback. So any key points or questions or insights that you would like to share from your discussion. So whoever it was that was nominated for Breakout Room 1, would you please like to share back from your group? Who did we have from Breakout Room 1? Do you know which rooms you were in? You're not sure which ones you were in?
Well, we were discussing about how scalable can be the online teaching. We were actually discussing about the numbers, because it's easy to deal with a seminar of maybe 20, 30 people. So, I mean, it's manageable. But when we might have like an entire theater with 300, 400 people that they have to join the lecture, perhaps this might become a little bit more difficult. So this is one of the main topic. And also another important thing that we're discussing is the fundamental and inherent absence of difference, especially from an engagement point of view, between the online teaching and the normal live teaching, if you want.
Absolutely, and I think that's something that we have reflected on in terms of we need the right learning spaces, and we need the teal suites to really sort of make this work effectively. Thank you, Omar. Rebecca has nominated Joshua from Breakout Room 2.
Very kind, isn't
You're
it?
on the spot.
So yeah, funny enough, Rebecca's the only one in our group with experience of this. So she was talking quite a lot, but I'll try and summarize what we were saying. So she was saying she's had some troubles with Zoom, technical issues, and this was one of our problems that we identified. So the technology behind this, which I think Amy said at the start, is it fair that lecturers should have to set up a Zoom meeting and try and do the class and get back to your laptop at the same time? Mohammed gave quite a good analogy. It's like working in McDonald's and doing the serving customers, and then trying to take a phone call at the same time, and then going to the drive-through window. So he was saying that more needs to be done for helping us in doing this. we did have quite a good question on how long these sessions should run. I'm not a fan of long Zoom or online sessions at all anyway, but Rebecca's sessions are lasting all day. So it was a question of whether or not that's really feasible. Anything else? I think that's what we were talking about. No, okay, I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. Yep, I think that's a good point in terms of is there an optimum time frame with which to manage this kind of hybrid teaching. It is in itself a whole new delivery model which really needs to be thought about at the course sort of design level and at the validation level. I think certainly to manage that for a day. I mean, Rebecca, did you find that you had good engagement throughout the day? Sorry to keep putting you on the spot, but as you do have the experience with it.
I'm sorry that everybody has to listen to my voice for this long. Yes, kind of varying levels. It's been quite interesting, the high spots and the low spots. And actually one of the students from my third year reflected, oh, when we're online, we get breaks, but in face-to-face, we don't get breaks because usually we're just, in studio, we expect them to manage their own time. So yeah, actually there's things that we can learn across digital and physical when we're kind of keeping that engagement up.
Yeah, absolutely. And having those comfort breaks are really important, aren't they, in terms of, especially when you're in front of the screen for that long. Thank you. Breakout room 3, what were your main takeaways from the discussion? Had you nominated somebody?
I think we missed the message actually to nominate someone.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. No, it was probably us. Sort of it just didn't see it pop up. If everyone's happy in the room for me, I can summarise. So we talked, first of all, I think we were just talking about yet another term, I guess, high flex, that I know a lot of colleagues and certainly myself a bit overwhelmed with, flipped blended learning, high flex, all this kind of thing. And I think there's a general feeling of, certainly within my colleagues in SEG, of just being overwhelmed with electronic platforms and all these different models. And I think people just almost want to be told, this is the one we're going to use, focus on this. A bit like with, I think Darren said that in his school, they were all told to use Zoom. We've certainly taken that decision as a school in SEG, that everyone just uses Zoom, and then we can focus on it and get support on that easily. In terms of the online, Fevos and myself have both trialed the live streaming. It's something I wanted to do originally, sort of earlier on in summer and lockdown, when we were told that the technology would be there, and then later on we were told it wouldn't be, so not to try it. And I've only been doing it for a couple of weeks because of being sort of discouraged from it, but I was worried about the inclusivity side of things, especially with students that don't have a choice not to be on campus. I have quite a few students that decide, made the decision to study online rather than coming into face-to-face for various reasons, which I don't have a problem with as long as they're engaging. But yeah, we were both doing it, I think, quite low tech with just a laptop, and Fevos has got a Bluetooth microphone. I've just got a cheap sort of £7 Amazon microphone that I got when we had to do some turn some field trips online. And I found that the lapel microphone, if I just sit it next to the laptop, it just picks up everyone in the room quite nicely. It works quite well, and it was actually the students that requested it. One of my colleagues had been doing it anyway, despite the advice, not to try it. He's been doing it quite successfully, just with a laptop and screen sharing in his face-to-face classes, and I think it has more of a feeling of inclusivity and everyone being in the cohort together and not sort of being maybe ostracized because they don't have the option to come in. And the students actually at the student voice, the student reps at the Student Voice Council meeting, they actually requested, they said that they really enjoyed what this lecturer was doing. It worked really well. and could we try it? You know, could other lecturers take it on? So I've tried it. I'd already done it in a couple of very small tutorials, but I've done it in some bigger lab classes, and it seems to work quite well. And as Fevos was saying before, the breakout rooms, you know, he's been able to make that work too. And we also found that, I think we both said that in our experience, that the students are actually quite tolerant. You know, if something doesn't go quite right, or you know, whatever, that I think they're quite tolerant this year, and they appreciate the efforts that we're making, even though what we're doing perhaps doesn't always work properly. We know for the next class what to do, what not to do, and I think they realise that we're all finding our feet as well. And the overwhelming feedback from the SVC was that the students just appreciate the effort that the academics are putting in, you know, even if things don't quite go to plan, which they don't always. So yeah, I think that was the main sort of takeaways from there.
Thank you. And that's so interesting, isn't it? Because I think there's almost two things happening here. There's the access to the knowledge and the content and the learning experience, and the access to the community and the social side. I was calling round and still am students who are in isolation, either due to COVID or due to a flatmate with COVID. And when I asked, you know, how are you keeping in touch with the course, they were so appreciative of being able just to see what was happening in the room that they weren't able to access. That being said, I think when we are out of this storm that we're currently in, that then does change the discussion and the debate somewhat, doesn't it? Because we'll have students who would be able to be there physically, and then that whole question of choice is very, very different. But yeah, completely take your point, Tony. It's wonderful to hear that there has been some positive feedback there. So we've got the last group 4. So who hasn't spoken yet? Johnny. Hi, Johnny.
Yeah. So we had quite an interesting discussion talking about skill sets. I mean, if you think in the last 12 months, we've asked our academics to go from face-to-face teaching, then to online learning, and now this sort of high flex. And I think that in itself is a whole new skill set, which is great, but obviously we have to kind of take into account, you know, academic workloads and things like that. So we have to tread cautiously when looking at this model. But that being said, I think it is a good model. I like we like the idea of connecting students together, making sure they had an equivalent experience. Obviously, you know, we also touched on the technical facilities and having the support there to make sure that the student experience on both sides of the physical group and the online group was smooth. Ali mentioned some experience that he had in the late 90s, where he was doing a similar model to this, but the quality of the teaching actually went down because it was quite hard to manage expectations, and so it reverted to a baseline level of delivery rather than sort of engagement. And Ali also came up with 7 points to consider, which, if you'd like to jump in, Ali, and explain those points, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah. I have to say the experience in the late 90s was using very different technology to what we have today.
Of course.
I found it quite difficult in my own practice, and I thought my own teaching practice suffered, as did the learning experience of those in the room and remotely. So as a result, parity of experience suffered as well. So I do have a slight disagreement with the inclusion argument. I think this approach may look inclusive, but it may not be quite as inclusive as it looks. It is actually, in my experience, better to run 2 sessions, even if they are shorter, to cater for the needs of the relevant audiences, rather than attempt to cover everyone's needs, and in so doing, lower the quality of your provision. That is based purely on my experience in the late 90s and in recent years in my previous institution, where I also had to do some of this, not out of choice, but out of necessity, when it's clear that you cannot repeat or multiple teach simply because of other pressures. So you have to just bundle together groups of students in the room and remotely, and that alone speaks volumes about, well, how good this is going to be or otherwise. The 7 points that Johnny was referring to, in my experience, are preparation. If you think you need to prepare quite a bit for a standard session, well, think again. This requires a lot more preparation. 2, pedagogic skill. Again, if you think you've got that for a particular group of students, again, you've got to combine that with what you have in your back pocket for the other group of students. 3, digital fluency. It's not enough to be digitally competent. You've got to do better than that if you want to make this work. 4, peer support in real time. I found it very hard to do this HyFlex thing without a colleague, without a learning technologist, without an OCD equivalent in the room helping me, keeping an eye on everything that was going on with both groups. 5, equipment. A laptop webcam, a laptop mic won't cut it. You need a lot more. That was also said before. I needed to make this work. I needed to have equipment in place that sometimes my institution did not have. 6, very important, participants' understanding. You've got to warn them that things could go wrong, and most frequently they will go wrong at some point. It will not be the experience that they expect in one way or the other. And 7, resilience on the part of both tutors, colleagues, peer support colleagues, and your students. So that's roughly my experience of this over the years. And as I say, sometimes it is a necessity and you've got to do it. Sometimes you can choose, and if I can choose, I'd rather spend a bit more time and do 2 sessions with the right approaches for each group in a tailor-made, bespoke fashion.
Thank you, Ale. That's I think that's really important, and I like that you've made a kind of emphasis there on it is a pedagogical approach and it is a whole skill set. And I'm confident. I'm a confident teacher. I'm confident with technology, and I wouldn't feel capable that I could run something in that way particularly well. So I think it's important that a takeaway from this session for everybody is that we, as an institution, we haven't asked you to do this. If you are and it's working and the students are happy, fantastic. But it has, because of the complexities, it hasn't been something that we have introduced formally. We've got a few minutes kind of left of the session. Are there any questions, or would people like a follow-up on this? It's something that I feel is in a lot of discussions at the moment. It's kind of in the corner of what's happening. Do we need to be doing more about this? Do we need to be encouraging more discussion, more training, sharing of examples? Feel free just to unmute and jump in.
Thinking of studying this in my my Apex qualification that I'm taking next year. Do you have any recommendations on research that's already been completed around this subject?
I do, yes. I've been reading around it, so I can send you a book by William Beattie, I think it is, which is fantastic, and some references. It's emerging more in the States, isn't it? I think in terms of a model. So I'm happy to share some literature around it. Would people be interested in coming together around this in the future?
Yeah, I would suggest, Amy, that there's if you want a quick lighter notebook,
a blog.
if you Google HyFlex EduCourse, you will find some reports that are kind of a quick intro to this with the pros and the cons, and that gives you a sort of a broad picture of what challenges have been identified along the lines of the ones I mentioned earlier. For example, the reverting back to delivery mode challenge, in the interest of having everyone together and giving them some more or less the same stuff. You revert to delivery, and that's not good teaching. That's just delivery. So that sort of thing is very well explored in those. EduCourse is a good source.
Yes, absolutely, and that is referenced on the slides here, which will be on the recording. Fantastic. Well, I hope you found that useful in terms of dipping a bit of a toe into the water around this topic, and we will, I think, be wanting to bring it back maybe to later mini fests or to other events. And Richard has shared the link there, so that's fantastic. I will let everybody have a break now, and obviously we've got this gap now to pause for the silence as well, should you wish to partake in that. Thank you for your engagement today, and I will look forward to seeing you throughout the rest of the day.